also a writer. I don't do horror. I write disaster preparedness books. First book is downstairs, Prepper's Home Defense. Got another one coming out in August and several more down the road. You horror writers think you get interesting emails? Take a walk through my inbox. Okay? I get emails from people who are founding members of the Tinfoil Beanie Brigade. Okay? And I'm torn because they buy my books. But on the other hand, I don't really want to interact with most of these people. I don't believe the things they believe, that they're so far into the conspiracy theories that they can't even see reality at this point. Okay? So one of the things I did early on, I created 2 separate Facebook accounts. I have one that's my public persona with my writing in that, my websites, and then I have another one that's me. And that one I keep locked down like you wouldn't believe. Okay? I have personally met every single person that's on that friend list. I've either gone to school with them, I've met them at conferences like this, whatever. I know these people. And even then, you're not going to find pictures of my kids. You're not going to find pictures of my house. You might find a picture of my wife just because she's extremely attractive and I'm really proud of that. But on the public end of it, there are no photos of me. There's my author photo, that's it. You're not going to find pictures of anybody I'm related to. You're not going to find references to where I live. Nothing like that at all. And even then, as an investigator, I can tell you something. I don't care who it is. I don't care what measures they put in place. If somebody is motivated enough and willing to spend the money, they will find you. I can do it. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay, there are people out there that make me look like a toddler when it comes to this stuff. In the investigation realm, we have a saying. You can have service cheap, you can have it good, you can have it fast. Pick 2. Okay? A lot of these stalkers have nothing but time on their hands. Okay? Many of them literally are the guy living in mom's basement. Okay? They're unemployed. They might not have the money to spend on some of the things that I can do, but by God do they have the time. And they will sit for hours on top of hours on top of hours, scouring through blog posts, Facebook posts, tweets. If you reference that you picked up such and such book at this used bookstore the other day, they'll map where that bookstore is. And they'll try to figure out how close you might be to living there. You have your house near there. These people, 99.9% of them are harmless. Okay, they latch onto these things because they have nothing but time. But that 0.1% are the ones that'll knock on your door and introduce themselves to you. Oh my God, I'm your biggest fan! And we're going to write together because I've got this hypodermic needle. Okay? If you're a rat, you really don't need to worry about that aspect.
Well, no,
the rest of us mortals.
You know, my wife, she's been trying to get me to separate the two for a while, because I have a Facebook page that's fairly public, and I don't post pictures of my house or anything like that. But there are, you can go there and find out who all my relatives are, and that's something I hadn't thought of, and so I'm definitely going to take that advice, because that's something I hadn't thought of. You could track down my mom, my sister, everyone else, so that's something I definitely take into consideration. You have brought up a point about your public image, and people, when you make a blog post or whatever, rather than narrowing it down, actually broadening it. And that's something that I think is kind of important to talk about also, is getting lumped in with these larger groups and getting misconstrued based on one comment or even one blog post. I actually, in one of my many other capacities, I trained a fighter who wound up becoming a world champion in UFC. And right after he won the title, everyone started kind of looking to see everything about this guy. And of course, they found me as his trainer. And I went on to an MMA message board, sheerdog.com, and found an interesting message post. Frank Mir's trainer is insane, with a link to a story I had written. It was a story I had written for a magazine called Brutal Tales, and it was a contest to see who could write the most brutal story. And so they had linked to that, and that became, for everyone who didn't know anything about me, had never met me, had never read a single book of mine, that became their idea of who I was. And the thread was extremely long. People, this guy should be locked up, he shouldn't be, they should throw in the key, they shouldn't let people like this walk the streets, so on and so forth.
So you're saying they're wrong?
And so that is, things can get misconstrued out there, and that is something that I do consider now when I write stories, when I post blogs, when I tweet. Tweeting didn't exist at the time. Now that's a real big thing, because that's, what is that, 140 words? Characters, yeah. And so that 140 characters can sum up everything about you for people who don't know you and don't know anything about you. So how do you guys kind of address that?
Well, for me, Twitter is, that's mostly what I use at this point. I'm not really on Facebook much, and I actually use that mostly to connect with actual friends and family, although I haven't disentangled those accounts like I should. And Twitter is its own kind of weird beast, because it's kind of like you're in this office with everybody else who's, there's a list of people that I see on there every day, and we're all writing, and we're all tweeting away while we're writing. And so it's this kind of like, you feel like you're at the water cooler with your coworkers at one moment, and then at another moment you feel like you're having kind of a fairly intimate discussion with some other people. And but then when you kind of remember that, even more so than Facebook, which is, Facebook at least you have to have approved somebody to see your post. Twitter is, unless you have a private account, it's locked down. And in which case it's not super effective as a promotional tool. Twitter is open, and so literally anybody with an internet connection can read all the things that you put out there, and it's a weird thing, because the problem for me is that I've built a lot of my readership through social media, and I interact with my readership a lot through social media, and like my, all 5 of my diehard fans are like, people who are I'm interacting with online. And so there's this, you have this urge to kind of step back. My natural inclination would be just to never talk about anything out there on a certain level. But then you have this, you have to be out there to a certain degree, and you can't be out there strictly doing self-promotion, because nobody wants to read a Twitter feed that's just by my book.
Exactly.
By my book. And so, I will be like, oh, we had a really nice dinner here, and then I think about, oh, I guess I just mentioned where I was, and then I'm not home, and and things like this, and so it's, I don't know, I'm probably doing it wrong.
As far as that locator goes, I never put where I'm at. But what I found is that my friends who, harmless, don't understand, hey, I was out with James White at this restaurant here, and they don't understand that you can't do that. Like, you shouldn't do that with the fans that I attract. And so that's